Officials in New York and Massachusetts are hoping to bring better connectivity between Albany and Boston.
After decades, a new major rail transformation is now underway between Boston and Albany. This long-anticipated project signals a renewed commitment to regional connection. Backed by federal momentum under the Trump administration and carried forward with bipartisan support, the initiative is now gaining speed. Will this new train finally deliver the reliability and efficiency the Northeast Corridor has long needed? And how will it shape the daily lives of those residents? Let's take a closer look at a project that's about to redefine expectations from state to state in this episode of Great Trainspeed. Hi there. If you're interested in rail projects in the United States, our channel is for you. As of now, the only train offering the service from Boston to Albany is the Lakeshore Limited, but it takes at least 5 hours to reach the destination. The Boston-Albany Corridor, formerly known as part of the full build of East-West Rail, is a long-term intercity rail initiative. Initially envisioned as a robust service with up to 8 daily round trips powered by diesel locomotives, the project has since seen its operational scope scaled back. In April 2024, the director of East-West Rail announced a significant revision. Only 3 daily round trips between Boston and Albany would be offered, with no official explanation given for the reduction. Despite this change, the 2045 target for full build completion of the whole project remains in place, and the service is expected to operate at a maximum speed of 80 miles per hour. In a period marked by widespread cutbacks and delays in passenger rail investment, particularly under the Trump administration, the progress of the East-West Rail project stands out. While numerous proposed rail corridors, including the New York to Scranton extension and the Second Pennsylvania line, were stalled or left in indefinite review, the Boston to Albany corridor quietly advanced. Against the odds, it secured a $3.5 million federal award from the Department of Transportation to fund a formal study plan, officially moving the project into Step 2 of the Corridor Identification and Development CID program. This development is especially notable given the restrictive funding environment at the time, where many similar initiatives saw their momentum halted. That the East-West Rail project not only remained on the table, but actively progressed signals a rare endorsement. While other routes await clarity, the Boston-Albany corridor is cautiously but definitively moving forward. So, what exactly is this project? Why is it so important for this area? The Boston and Albany corridor, part of the East-West Rail initiative, has a history spanning nearly 2 centuries. Rail service began in the 1830s with the Boston and Worcester Railroad and the Western Railroad, which connected Boston to the New York State line by 1841. These lines merged into the Boston and Albany Railroad in 1870, and passenger service peaked in the early 1900s, but declined after the 1968 Penn Central merger and the creation of Amtrak in 1971. Local commuter service continued east of Framingham under the MBTA, while limited intercity service was restored by Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited in 1975. Ownership changes, from Conrail to CSX, then state acquisition of key segments by MBTA in Massachusetts, set the stage for renewed interest. Since the 1990s, federal and state studies, growing public support, and coordinated planning have revived the project. By the early 2000s, the East-West Rail project showed signs of revival. Massachusetts and New York pursued federal funding for a high-speed rail study in 1991, and by 2004, Congress renewed support for expanding the New England high-speed rail corridor, including the East-West link through Springfield. State control grew as MBTA and Massachusetts acquired key sections, culminating in full ownership of the Worcester-Boston segment from CSX in 2012. Renewed public interest and advocacy kept momentum alive through 2021. With the Boston and Albany route now the preferred alignment and initial federal funding secured through the Corridor Identification and Development Program, the project has evolved into a modern, actively planned initiative rooted in decades of effort. In recent years, the Boston-Albany Corridor project has gained significant momentum through increased funding and accelerated planning efforts. In 2022, Massachusetts leveraged CSX's acquisition of Pan Am Railways to secure commitments for service improvements mandated by the Surface Transportation Board. Planning for East-West Rail was divided into 2 phases. Phase 1 focusing on inland route restoration and Springfield track upgrades, and Phase 2 targeting full Boston-Albany service. On April 26, 2022, former Governor Baker endorsed a clear path forward, officially greenlighting the project. Later that year, MassDOT, Amtrak, and CSX jointly applied for $108 million to fund corridor upgrades between Springfield and Worcester. This grant was awarded in September 2023, with track work expected to begin by spring 2027. Continuing the progress, MassDOT selected consultants in 2023 to develop the East-West Rail Service Development Plan, advancing detailed planning. By December 2023, the corridor was accepted into the Federal Railroad Administration's Corridor Identification Program, a critical multi-step process for launching new intercity rail services. MassDOT secured $500,000 to scope the service development plan for East-West rail planning and design in the fiscal year 2025 budget. And now, with $3.5 million awarded, official authorization to proceed with the second phase of the CID program is underway. This advancement has the potential to bring numerous advantages to the region, some of which may be difficult to quantify. How will people respond to this development? Will its benefits outweigh the challenges during the construction? Drop a 1 if you agree, or 0 if you're not sure yet. The expansion of the Boston-Albany rail corridor promises a range of benefits that extend beyond improved transportation. One of the most immediate advantages is the potential to decrease highway congestion. By offering a reliable rail alternative, the project could significantly reduce vehicle miles traveled, VMT, on heavily trafficked routes such as Interstate 90. According to analysis by Trains in the Valley, East-West Rail has the potential to remove thousands of car trips daily, easing pressure on highways and cutting emissions caused by idling and stop-and-go traffic. Despite the clear benefits the Boston-Albany rail project offers, it faces lots of substantial and complex obstacles that threaten to slow or even derail its progress. Some voices express frustration and doubt, pointing to financial challenges as a significant barrier. Concerns about funding for new equipment, crews, and necessary track upgrades are common, especially amid skepticism about the state's ability to adequately support even existing services like the MBTA. There's also puzzlement over the lengthy timeline, with some questioning why reinstating just a few additional daily trips would take 5 to 10 years, given that the inland route remains regularly used by both Amtrak and freight trains. There might be various factors behind these inquiries. Capacity constraints east of Worcester pose a serious bottleneck. The MBTA already struggles to maintain reliable commuter rail service to Worcester, and expanding passenger trains is made far more difficult by the fact that Massachusetts does not own the rail line between Pittsfield and Worcester. That section is controlled by CSX, a freight operator whose primary focus is moving goods rather than passengers. Negotiating increased passenger service on this shared track requires overcoming significant operational and logistical challenges. Passenger and freight trains must be carefully scheduled to avoid conflicts, as double tracking, passing sidings, upgraded signaling, and modern dispatch systems are costly and time-consuming to implement. Political and financial uncertainties compound these operational difficulties. The current federal administration has shown potential hostility toward infrastructure projects initiated during the Biden era, raising the risk of funding cuts or delays. Mass Streets blog has highlighted this precarious situation, citing examples like the recent U.S. House move to rescind $3.1 billion in grant funding, including a critical $335 million pledge for rebuilding the I-90 corridor in Boston's Allston neighborhood. Such funding uncertainties create a precarious environment for the Boston-Albany rail expansion, making it vulnerable to shifts in political priorities and budgetary constraints. Together, these operational, ownership, and political challenges form a formidable set of hurdles that the project must overcome to realize its transformative potential. Thanks for taking the ride with us today for this iteration. Subscribe and be safe out there. Cheers.